Who is Banksy? No one actually knows Banksy himself. Banksy, born in 1974 in Bristol, England, uses a stenciling technique. His art combines dark humor with graffiti. Why does Banksy hide his identity? Over the years, Banksy has tried to maintain his identity. He explains that he needs to hide his real identity from the world because of the illegal nature of graffiti. This gives him issues with cops all around the world. Evidently, Banksy vehemently adores the nature of art so much that he sacrifices it for his own identity. He hides his identity so that he could do what he loves. Banksy has his own unique form of art. Banksy's art is clever and funny while also focusing on concepts such as culture, ethnics, and politics. His art exists in cities all around the globe, from Vienna to San Francisco, Barcelona to Paris and Detroit. What is street art? Banksy focuses solely on street art. Street art, a form of visual art created in public locations, has gained popularity during the 1980s. Artists choose the streets as their gallery, rather than a museum, so that they can directly communicate with the public at large. In addition, street art is accessible to everyone, not only the rich and upper class. Where and when did street art originate? Graffiti can be dated back to boxcars in the early 1920s. Street art most likely has origins dating back to New York City's graffiti boom. In the 1960s, graffiti was not used by artists, but it was practiced by political activists and also by various gangs. Everyone knows that New York City is a center of commerce. However, not everyone knows that it is also the hub of graffiti. In the mid-20th century, artists would display their art in both subway stations and subway cars. You guys might be thinking, how is this allowed? Well, it actually was illegal. In the 1970s, the MTA made graffiti eradication a priority. What is the purpose and prerogative of street art as opposed to museum art? Well, not everyone can afford the luxury of art. It is expensive. The lower middle class makes up 34% of the American population. Only 1.5% of the population makes above $200,000 per year. In other words, the upper class. Only the middle class and upper class can afford art. One might say that is a lot of people, but the lower class makes up most of the population. Clearly, the street art is advantageous because it caters to everyone and is accessible at all times. Banksy wanted the whole world to benefit from his art, not just the rich. Who inspired Banksy? He did not just wake up one day and say, I want to become a street artist. Black Loret, one of the first graffiti artists in Paris, inspired Banksy. Black Loret was also known as the father of stencil graffiti. Banksy's style is very similar to Black Loret's. Every time I think I painted something slightly original, I find out that Black Loret has done it as well, only 20 years earlier. Banksy. What does Banksy think of the United Kingdom government? Let's just say Banksy strongly dislikes it, mainly for labeling graffiti as vandalism. Banksy does not like how the government marks his passion as vandalism. The UK government has one of the largest anti-graffiti governments in the world. However, Banksy changed that. The government finally understands the beauty of street art and its advantages for a city. Banksy's I Want Change piece is my personal favorite, mainly because it has a double meaning. First, the homeless man does not want one's money. He wants social change. This piece of art draws on Banksy's hatred of the government. He conveys that there is no equality. I view it in another way as well. Since I live in New York City, the hub of graffiti, I have come across many rude and greedy homeless men and women. I once gave a homeless man a quarter, and he asked me for $5. I entirely regretted giving him that quarter. This piece of art speaks to me mainly because I live in New York City, where there are around 48,000 homeless men and women.